I found out my husband had sex with my sister during our separation. 2 years ago, my husband and I were having issues. He really doesn't have a lot of friends, so when we got together, my friends became his friends. I would go out with coworkers after work, and he would get upset that I got home late. One particular guy, Chris, didn't want me hanging around. Now, Chris was just a really sweet guy, and we got along very well. We went out to lunch together, we hit the bar after work. He was just a great guy to work with. My husband, Dave, just didn't like him, and told me he didn't want me around him. I told him he was being silly and controlling. Things exploded when Chris had an extra ticket to a baseball game for my favorite team and invited me to go. I said yes, but knowing Dave would be angry, I told him I had to work that day. We went to the game and had a great time. Yes, I know I'm wrong for lying to him, and I regret that I did that. When I got home, Dave asked me how work was. I told him it was fine. He got quiet and asked me where I had been. I responded that I was at work. He told me that he was going to ask me one more time where I was, and I had better be honest. I told him I wasn't going to play games. He pulled up my location history on Google Timeline, showing the baseball stadium, and told me to be honest with him. As I expected, it was a big thing. I was so angry that he stalked me. It was such a violation of my privacy. He didn't see it as controlling. He accused me of having an affair, and told me he wanted me to promise not to see Chris again. I told him he was being ridiculous, and told him that I wasn't going to do that. He slept on the couch that night, and in the morning I told him I wanted a separation. I told him I felt smothered, that I needed him to trust me, and that we both needed space. I moved out and stayed with my sister, 28F. I hate to admit it, but I felt relieved. There was no trust with him, no give, and no chance to grow. When Chris found out what happened, he felt horrible, but I told him it wasn't his fault. I did date Chris for a few months, but we really didn't have the long-term compatibility that I was seeking. It was nice to date again and feel very open to new experiences. He just wasn't looking for marriage and kids, which is what I want. Last year, when the pandemic hit, my grandfather got COVID. I was a wreck and wound up calling up Dave, who was always very close to him. Dave rushed to be there for me and my family, and he was the guy I married again. After being apart 9 months, we decided to give things another try. I moved back in, we discussed boundaries. I asked if he was with anyone. When we were apart, he said he had one partner. This surprised me as he was never much of a dater, but I'd been with one person as well, which I admitted, and we both moved forward. Things have actually been great up until this weekend. The sister who I stayed with called me up and informed me that my husband had sex with my other sister while we were separated. I have a strained relationship with this sister, but I never thought she'd cross that line. I confronted my husband, who admitted she was the one person he was with. I just broke down crying, told him he was a terrible human being, and I didn't even want to look at him. He told me to tell him that the person I was with wasn't Chris, and he would agree that he was a terrible person. I didn't respond, and he just nodded and smugly said, "That's what I thought." He's trying to make me feel bad because of what happened between me and Chris. But there was nothing between me and Chris, and there never will have been until he blew up and made all these accusations. He said, "You were going to do what you did with Chris no matter what, and say it was my fault, whether I said something or not." Regardless, he thinks the two things are equal. He keeps saying, "You created a no-win situation that I have to live with for the rest of my life, so I returned the favor." I can't be rational about this. Every time I bring it up, I'm shaking with rage at both of them and end up raising my voice and screaming at him. He hasn't been with my sister in over a year, and we've honestly had a great year together. But I don't even know how to move forward with this. One minute, I want to forgive him and move forward, and the next I never want to see him again. He refuses to accept that what he did was wrong, and says that we were separated and both lived our lives. What do I even do here? I don't think I want a divorce, but I can't stand to look at him right now. Note: OP gets defensive in the comments when it suggested she was having an emotional affair with Chris. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Update. I've wanted to update for a couple months now, but this is the first I felt strong enough to write about this. First, let me get something out of the way. Everyone who doesn't have bipolar disorder, please take one huge step forward. Oops. Not so fast, me. A few months ago, I started seeing a psychologist to cope with the state of my marriage. She recognized some things, referred me to a specialist, and I was finally diagnosed as bipolar 2. It was not a happy moment for me. I felt like my life was over, and I think I cried for 3 days straight. Dave was incredible through it. He sat with me, took time away from work, and did so much to make sure I was okay. I began seeing a psychiatrist who has helped me tremendously by getting me onto a medication regimen that has changed my life. Dave and I are in counseling, and I feel like we're in a great place. It's not perfect, but we're healing. I think that my bipolar has been a huge obstacle. I am absolutely mortified and ashamed of my behavior. I look at it now, and it feels like I'm watching a different person. I hate that I acted that way and nearly ruined my marriage. I'm working to recognize when I'm behaving irrationally and try to control my impulses and actions. As for my sister, we have actually reconnected. That was a hard one. I really began to see that, as angry as I was with her, the biggest reason our relationship was crap was me. I was overly competitive. I put down every choice she ever made, and I really made her feel like she wasn't good enough. I told her I wanted to talk. We both got a lot of anger out. There was a lot of crying on both sides, and in the end, we agreed that we both still love each other and need to work to rebuild our relationship. We had our first Thanksgiving together in years last month, and I felt so good to have her there and see her smile at me again. I reread my first post at least once a month. At first it made me angry because of course I was right to do what I did. How dare they judge me? Now I see how outside of myself I was. I hate that person. I don't want to be her anymore. It's weird to see comments and PMs calling you every nasty name in the book, telling you that you're terrible, and agreeing with them. I use it to remind myself that I have to be better than that. Dave deserves better, and I deserve better from myself. Comment from OP in the update when asked how she'd write the original post now. If I was to rewrite it, just that part, I don't think I'd be very kind to myself. My husband cried and told me that he was sorry. He searched my location, but he thought our marriage was broken and needed to be fixed. I told him the only thing wrong was his controlling behavior and I wanted to separate to clear my head about us. I immediately called Chris up, told him that Dave and I were getting a divorce and that he had accused me of having an affair with him. Chris apologized, but I put all the blame on Dave and assured Chris that we were totally innocent in this. Truthfully, I was enjoying it. I got to have what I wanted with Chris and blamed Dave for driving me into his arms. He even cried. It was pathetic. Yeah, I don't like that bitch. I want to slap her. I don't know why Dave still loves me. It's more than I deserve. Comment. What a mess. Happy for them, I guess, but I feel like all parties would be better off without each other today. I fucked up by leaving after my girlfriend told me she loved me during sex. First of all, I know I fucked up and need to fix it. I, 28 mem, have been dating my girlfriend, I'm 24F, exclusively for 8 months. I asked her officially to be my girlfriend about a week ago, the last day of a vacation trip. We hadn't had sex yet, as she wanted to be in an established relationship first, which we talked about early on, and I 100% respected that. This girl, man, is different. Sex was OFC on my mind. She's beautiful. But I would have waited as long as it took if it meant her being comfortable. Well, we had wasted that night. Had a flight early AM, and I had a week-long work trip literally right after, so it didn't happen. Anyways, I get back. Go to her apartment. Long story short, she initiates sex. First, I want to emphasize, I love this woman. I've known that for months now. She's made me a better man. Neither of us come from the greatest environment, and I'm a lot rougher and guarded. She's been through hell, but remains so calm, soft, and optimistic. She's taught me those things. I've made it my priority since I met her to take care of her and put her first, but still, she shows me that love and care comes first over financial. I didn't expect our first time to be emotional for me. I'm the type of guy who has never really been in a serious relationship, and quite frankly, was a hoe that had calmed down before meeting her. She had been celibate for 3 years. Sex had been a touchy topic for her due to trauma. She had not told me any specifics aside from that, and we had that conversation maybe a month or 2 ago. It solidified me wanting to be careful with her. Anyways, we get into it. The foreplay is very passionate and intimate. Gets a bit graphic from here. As I'm about to enter her, we were just staring at one another, and I was in awe that this is my woman. I asked her if she's okay and she kissed me and told me she loved me. For the first time, I froze. Literally. I was already on the verge of tears, honestly. And for a split second, I doubted if this was right. I had an instantaneous fear of hurting her emotionally. I have no idea why. And I stopped. I got soft and had to get up and excuse myself. I came back and she seemed so worried and, dude, I just didn't know what to do with my emotions. I told her I had to leave and left. She has not answered any of texts, calls, anything. It's been a full 24 hours at this point. I feel horrible. Update 11 hours later. Firstly, thank you all for your comments. Very few of you were actually pretty rude, but I suppose that comes with the territory of Reddit. Glad to say I can relay a huge fuck you to those telling me I had no chance. To everyone else, you all made me realize that in person was better, and soon is ideal. I went to her ASAP. Here's what happened. Despite my long-winded posts, I am not a man of many words. Throughout our entire relationship, I tried my hardest to compensate with my actions. That obviously bit me in the ass when my actions did not align with my heart. I had to put my initial demeanor aside and pour my all into her audibly. I did just that. Not sure how detailed I should be. I went to her apartment. She answered, not expecting it to be me. I've told her about answering the door and not knowing who it is, but that's neither here nor there right now, lol. She was hesitant to let me in, but after pleading, she allowed it. I was overcome with emotion, so much so no words were coming out. Call me what you want, but I got to my knees in front of this woman and told her how I felt, how much she meant to me, how hard it was for me to be so open and vulnerable, and that I hadn't realized this until that night. My girl is very great at facilitating an open environment for communication, so this is by no means a reflection of her, but a testament to my upbringing. For context, both my girl and I come from abusive households. That reveals itself to her in her ways, though she handles it with grace and great consideration for others, whereas mine is very avoidant and closed off. Since a child, I never felt like a woman would truly love me, based on what was instilled in by my mother. We've had this conversation before. She's aware of this. I'm currently in therapy. But I didn't expect to react that way once I'm in presence of a woman who does, in fact, love me. I told her and reiterated that I will go through hell and high water to acknowledge my inner conflicts, not only for myself, but for her. I emphasized I will also do this so I can show up for her emotionally and never to leave her in a vulnerable state again. I apologized and teared up and apologized some more. She just listened, crying, but listening. She knelt down to me and unbelievably, this woman said verbatim, I understand, our actions are never a reflection of others, but of the relationship we have with ourselves. She told me how she felt, confused, hurt, and betrayed. Hearing that destroyed me, but she also reassured me that she knew who I was as a man and believed me to be genuine. She also threw in that if that shit happened again, I'd have no access to her, and she is her own priority above anyone else. Trust me, I will not be calling her bluff. She is very sure of herself, and I'm surprised she even let me in. She does the sweetest gesture when I'm upset and wipes from my chin to my ear. She did that, kissed me, thanked me for my honesty, and told me it was okay to cry. Man, I've always been told as man, I am less than for showing emotion. I never felt so open and comfortable, not even with my longtime friends. Nonetheless, I wanted to be sure I was the one comforting her and not the other way around. I asked her what I can do, and well, we finished what we started. I made love to my woman for the first time. In the AM, I got us breakfast, making sure to leave a note so she wasn't caught off guard if she woke up and saw I wasn't there. I'm going to marry this girl. Do right by her and myself. She's going to be the mother of my children when the time is right. Mark my words. Coming from a man who didn't see any of this for myself just a year ago, she really changed me for the better. I also want to note that, though my girlfriend nurtures me in this way, she does not mother me LOL. I know there's a rhetoric of women building a man. She's 100% facilitating my growth, but I am a grown man responsible for my actions and will make the effort to be better on my own. I do not want to paint her as weak for giving me a second chance like some of you have insinuated. Her support was and is something I will be grateful for forever. Also, I did end up showing her this post and we laughed at a few comments. Jeff here. Hi. With work, we are all capable of reaching the healthiest versions of ourselves. This moment is not a mirror of our relationship, but a marker to my BF's growth. If I can say anything to help anyone, I urge everyone to reach out to those you love and do better not only for them but for yourselves. We are not to blame for our traumas, but we are responsible for how they show up in our actions. Much love, Steve. On that note, not responding to nasty comments. Some of you are projecting and looking to tear a man down. I got my lady. Thanks everyone. Comment. Lovely to see a couple, each carrying trauma from their childhood, recognizing and supporting each other's healing and growth. I wish them the best. We have come to the end of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Tell us what you think about this story in the comments.